So today what we're gonna talk about is how to sell a piece of paper and make money. So in buying pre-construction, a lot of people have heard about the terms assignment. So what is an assignment? That everyone actually talks about, and it should be as part of the incentives that you get when you're purchasing a pre-con condo usually. So
oftentimes builders do include it as an incentive. We always like to say, try to have that. Things change with time. So you definitely want to make sure what happens today when you close in 3 or 4 years might not be that same financial situation. And sometimes people go into it as, an investment, or sometimes people go into it wanting to buy it for their home, and then things change down the line.
Exactly.
So just having that in there is just a nice cushion.
So just to say what an assignment is that when you buy pre-construction, you have that contract. Assignment is the right to sell that contract and assigning it to someone else so that they can close.
Oftentimes, if you're familiar with the term buying paper, you hear that a lot. So that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
So some of the benefits, what are they? Do you want to talk us a bit about that?
So some of the benefits of having that assignment clause is that life happens. And when you're buying a pre-con, you got a timeline of 3 to 5 years till the closing. And things change, your needs may change, you may need to buy into another property, another location, and so on. So it will give you the flexibility of assigning that contract to someone else. And in the process, 2 things will happen. First of all, you're gonna ask for your deposit back that you've paid along the way, and usually the appreciation that happens, you make a profit on it. So that's on the selling side. On the buying side, a lot of people will get a better deal on an assignment. And what happens is when a condo is being built, usually, it's gonna be in an area that, there's development happening. And you're getting that brand new unit, which otherwise you couldn't have gotten, one. And second, usually you get a better price than a comparable one that is on the market. Yeah. And because of that, the seller makes money, and there's enough meat on the bone for you to still get a good deal.
Yeah, and something I do want to touch on is when assignments don't work out, typically it's because the seller got a little bit too greedy. Because the happy middle would be for, you to get almost market value at that time. So the seller is getting a little less than market value, but the buyer, what's very attractive is they're getting a little bit of a deal. And that's what makes it so juicy and exciting for people when they hear, hey, assignments. Another thing I want to touch on, because I think one of the best benefits is you're making profit on 100% of the purchase price using only traditionally 20% of your deposit. So that to me is like, I don't have to spend $1 million and I can actually benefit from the 14.7% appreciation compounded year over year. Wow, that's amazing. Where can I go make that kind of money? Nowhere.
Yeah. So, the return on investment is pretty good, assuming, let's say, on $1 million, you've put down 200,000, and let's say now 4 years down the road, it's gone up by about 200,000. Over 4 years, that's about 25% appreciation on your money. So now there's incredible. 2 parts to any assignment. So we got the assignee and we got the assignor. So the assignee is assigning the contract, the assignor is getting that contract and buying into what was there. So the 2 parties involved in an assignment are the assignee and assignor. So now what we're gonna talk about is the process of an assignment. So, let's assume someone sees a property, they like it on paper, they put an offer. The offer is a complicated one. It's not going to be straightforward. There's someone is going to be knowledgeable, especially on the selling side, to know how the numbers work and put all the numbers together. But let's just skip from that part. There are several things that happens along the way. So you put the offer in, you negotiate it, and you come to a conclusion on the price. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we go through a conditional period. And during that conditional period, several things should happen. One is we usually put a lawyer condition, both for the seller and both for the buyer. For the lawyer to review, because it's a complicated contract to begin with, and for the buyer, they need to see what they're buying, so they have to review the contract of the original purchaser.
And picking the right lawyer for this is very, very important. oftentimes we've seen it being butchered so much. You think that just because someone practices real estate law that they know how to do an assignment. It is a whole different animal, and we do advise you knowing that that lawyer did do other assignment purchases before or sales before, because it is a complex one. It's not straightforward.
And they're versed in pre-construction purchases as well, because again, that whole contract is pretty. So we have the lawyer review. So we go through the lawyer review, everything is fine. After that, we go through the financing condition. We want to make sure the financing goes through because the builder wants to see the new purchaser is able to close on that property. So they want to see that. So once we have that, then all the paperwork will go to the builder. And usually builders take about 3-4 weeks usually to review the papers and approve the new purchaser and give them the right to take over the contract. So this is as a high level as of what is happening through the process.
Yeah.
So there are two parties to any assignment. So we have the assignor who is selling the contract, and we have the assignee who is purchasing that contract. So let's talk about the process, Dev. So the process, we have the contract that is a pretty complex one, and as a broker, salesperson, you need to know exactly what you're doing. But let's skip that part, go to the part that you actually now negotiating the price. So you negotiate the price. After that, you're gonna have certain conditions that, in our opinion, are a must. First is a lawyer. As an assignee, as an assigner, both they want to have their lawyer present. The person buying that contract is also buying the original contract that the person purchased. So that is a lengthy one. So they want to know what they're buying into. They want to know about the cap development charges. They want to know what other expenses they're gonna incur when the closing comes. So that's one of the most important things that we always explain to all our clients.
And just to touch on that, the lawyer review is one of the most important things, and picking your lawyer is also another one of the most important things. We've seen so many times these things get butchered. It's not a straightforward deal. It's a very complex deal. Yeah. People think you're just exchanging hands, changing the name on the paper. It's so not. Like Nima said, there's cap development. There's so many other things that go in there. And picking the right lawyer is crucial to making the deal actually go through. Because we do our part and then we hand it over. And then there's so much information being thrown at you that you don't know what's happening and you're turned off completely. So having somebody holding your hand, yes, we're there, but legally having somebody holding your hand along the way is really key. So someone who's just doing real estate law is actually not enough to do it. You need somebody who's done this time and time again, who knows the ins and the outs.
Yeah, who knows about the pre-construction contracts.
Pre-construction, yeah.
And if anyone's looking for a list of these types of lawyers, reach out to us, email us.
We have a list for that.
We'll send you guys the list so that you can ensure you're getting the best advice. So once the lawyer review is done, we're gonna have a financing condition. We usually put in a 10-day financing condition so that we can ensure the person buying it is able to close. Also, the developer needs to know that this person
satisfy that condition with the developer.
Developer needs to know that, so they want to make sure that the new person can close on it when the closing comes. So the other condition that must be in the contract is the financing condition, because the developer wants to see the new purchaser being able to close when the time comes. Yeah. So we usually put in about 10-day condition on financing. So once that is satisfied, we have the lawyer review, we send everything to the builder. And there's another condition for the builder, which is usually we put in about 3 to 4 weeks for the builder to review the contract. So usually that's enough time for them to review. And once they're satisfied with everything, they will approve the new purchaser. So at this point, everything is done. Now, the purchaser has got the new contract. So the 3 common mistakes people usually make during an assignment, one is the fact that they list their unit on MLS. Second is they don't know they won't get a lot of the incentives as the first purchaser.
Non-transferable.
They're non-transferable. And third is timelines.
When to list it, when to be ready to make the move, and
not taking the timeline seriously and not knowing about how long it takes for certain things. So let's talk about the first one.
MLS.
Any builder that sells a unit, pre-construction unit, they don't want you competing with their unit tomorrow and listing it on MLS. So for that reason, they will not allow you to list it on MLS. So this is key. If you need to sell your unit as an assignment, use an agent that has a good network of pre-construction purchasers and investors that they can promote to, because you cannot advertise it on social media. You cannot go on Kijiji.
Yeah.
So
don't sell on Kijiji.
Yeah,
guys.
do not go on Kijiji.
Don't be that person.
And the most important thing is the fact that if you put it on MLS and if they catch you, they will fine you first.
Yeah.
And a lot of times
they can cancel the deal completely.
They can cancel the deal completely. So this is crucial to not have it on MLS.
That's also found in your contract. So going back to the pre-construction lawyer, they will go through this line by line with you and say, if this is an investment for you and you plan on moving the property, these are the limitations that come with this piece of paper. So
that's
you're
why you
full
have to
aware.
have a good lawyer.
Yeah.
So now talking about the second one, a lot of the incentives that the first purchaser got are not transferable. So I mean, we talked about this in our pre-construction webinar last time. You can click the link somewhere on this page to go there and see how the process works. But I would say two of the common mistakes that people make are when the first purchaser has the right to lease during occupancy, the second purchaser not necessarily can have that.
Yeah.
So watch out for that one.
And second, the assignment.
And they cannot assign it again. So you buy that, you have to close now. You cannot assign it again.
It's not a one-size-fits-all. Sometimes you can, but oftentimes you really can't.
In most cases, you can't. So this is the number 2. Number 3. Timelines.
So what does that mean? People want to, they already know that they want to go and assign the unit. It's a business within, the real estate world that people buy with the intention fully of flipping it, right? So when do you need to actually contact a realtor to list the property? Even though Nima said you can't list it on MLS, there's other ways to list it. I would say 90 days or anywhere between 6 months before to 90 days before your actual closing.
That would be the ideal time to sell it. But
and
also
why?
you need to read the contract, because a lot of times the builder either has to be sold 90% or a certain percentage of their unit has to be sold before they let you even assign.
Yeah.
So if that condition has not been met, you cannot do it.
Yeah.
They also sometimes have certain timelines that you can only assign during these periods. Some builders say, when during the occupancy till 2 weeks before closing, we will let you assign it. And a lot of other builders will say, listen, you know what? 2 weeks before occupancy, you can only assign it. So you need to know the timelines and time the listing of that assignment properly, because it takes time these contracts to go through. So marketing, it will take time. Usually I would say, you need to have minimum 3 months to be able to properly advertise and get the best.
Take time.
And then once that deal is met, then you're gonna need at least 45 days for the conditions to be met. Because remember, you're gonna have, let's say, 3 to 5 business days lawyer review, 10 business days, that's 2 weeks of financing. Then you're gonna have 3 to 4 weeks of builder approval. So don't think that is gonna happen overnight. I mean, like, let's say it takes 3 months to sell it. We're talking about another 2 months of condition almost for you to be able to get paid on that.
And the biggest thing to know is if those timelines are not met, then guess what? You have to actually close and take all the closing costs.
That wasn't our problem. Our client came across a really good deal downtown Toronto. They were in a tight time frame. And the only person that could get that was a cash purchaser. So what ended up happening was, the person had to assign, was happy and relieved because they couldn't close on the unit, but the person who purchased it actually paid the exact same amount of money that purchaser paid 4.5 years ago. But they could only do that because it was cash, and that was a mistake on the seller's part, not accounting how much time they need to sell this. So now we're gonna talk about the tax implications for assignments. So one is the HST rebate issue, and second is the income tax implications. So now let's talk about the HST rebate. So
which is a big one.
It's a huge one that a lot of people actually don't pay good attention to because...
And don't understand it fully.
Yeah. Because
so pay attention.
When you're purchasing a pre-construction, exactly, pay attention. When you're purchasing pre-construction, there's a HST rebate that's built into the price, which is roughly around $24,000.
Yeah.
So when you purchase it as the first time purchaser of that contract, that is built into your contract. And when you are closing on it, you don't have to pay anything. But
it's not paid twice, just so that we're clear. A lot of people think it's paid and then paid again, and not everyone is entitled to getting the rebate either. It's one person.
Yeah. So let's talk about who's entitled to getting it. So if you're moving into the unit, you're entitled to get it. If you're renting the unit, you pay it at the beginning, and then you'll show a contract that you've rented out.
And then next fiscal year.
And then you apply to get it back. If you leave that unit empty, you have to pay for the HSE, and you will not get it back. So that's for the first purchaser. But for the second purchaser, regardless of what is happening, they're moving in, they're renting it out, they're keeping it empty, they have to pay that HSD. So that $24,000 comes due on closing. So when you're closing, whatever fees you got your development charges, land transfer tax, add another $24,000. And that's where a lot of people don't pay attention, because then they got to come up with another $24,000. If you are moving into the unit though, you can file out an application and get that back. If you're also renting it, you can again apply for it to get it back, but you have to be prepared to pay it. And usually, based on what I've seen, takes about 3 months. I've seen it go as much as 5. So 3 to 5 months usually takes for you to get that money back. So make sure you know it. So
do account for it.
Yeah, you account for it. The second thing is the income tax implications. I mean, we're not accountants, we're not lawyers. That's why we say talk to an accountant, talk to a lawyer. But something that a lot of people don't pay attention to is they think because they were going to live in there, now they sold the contract, they don't have to pay tax.
It's a proper investment at this point, so you are taxed accordingly.
Yeah. Or even if they were going to rent it, it's going to be capital gain. No, none of this is going to apply here. Again, talk to your accountant. But what you need to account for is the fact that this is going to be a full income tax. So if you made $100,000, that's
off
just
of the property.
Yeah. So that is like you made $100,000 in your job or whatever you're doing. So you're going to pay full tax on that. Another issue that a lot of people also don't know about is that on that profit, so let's assume you made $100,000 profit, you have to pay HSD. So $100,000 plus 13%. And a lot of times what we see is that a buyer has an issue with paying that 13% because they can't write it off. There's nothing they can do. So what happens is the assigner has to absorb that. So let's say you thought you were making $100,000. Well, sorry, you're making less than that. You're making almost, let's say, $87,000.
Yeah.
And you got to pay income tax on it too. So it's not all fun and games if you think, you're not paying taxes on that. So these are the things to account for down the road if you want to assign a unit.
So to wrap this up, we do want to leave you with one big point. If you are buying with the intention of solely assigning it down the line, know that the market does change. As you know, we go through cycles. Markets are great, markets are not so great. And so if you buy in a bad market thinking you're going to sell...
Let's just assume when COVID hit, who would have thought that would have happened? And if your unit was coming for occupancy and you had to close on it,
and the panic, and also
you would have
the
been
surge.
in a bad situation. So always buy with the intention to close because that's the best way.
Yeah.
If you see the market is good, you have the option to assign it.
Or if it's not, then you can close, hold on to it, rent it out, and then, get the bulk of that profit.
Yeah, so it's, again,
gives
it's
you
not
the option.
About timing the market, it's about timing the market, right, Dev?
Time the market.
Time the market. Also, to add to that, we deal with a lot of pre-construction projects and a lot of people that are purchasing pre-cons, both for end users and investors. So we got a pretty good network of them, and a lot of these people right now are interested in assigning their units. And the good thing is there is enough meat on the bone for you to make money as a purchaser. So if anyone's interested, feel free to reach out. We got a list of them. You can pick and choose from uptown to downtown with different time frames of closing that you can take a look at and see which one would suit your needs.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you for watching, and watch out for the next one. Bye.